I have with me Mr. Omar Abdullah, the young Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. Let me begin by asking him, Omar, the polls are on the anvil. And we see a lot of migratory birds. How strong is the NC Congress alliance, or like some others?
The alliance has sealed its seat-sharing arrangement. There was some doubt that had been created because there was talk about the Congress wanting to fight one seat from the valley. But given that all three seats in the valley were sitting National Conference members, and we have repeated our candidates for this election, fortunately we have now been able to work out the arrangement whereby National Conference fights 3 seats from the valley, and the Congress will fight the 2 Jammu seats and the Ladakh seat.
So no possibilities of you following the path that the Paswans and the DMKs have done?
That was never our path anyway. That has never been, we've never been the sort of Ayaram Gayaram group. As I mentioned a little earlier in the session that I did with in your conclave, our arrangement or our understanding, our alliance was between National Conference and Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. That is a matter of history now, and that's it.
You know, I was amongst those people who heard you speak in Parliament on the 28th of July. That stirring speech, and it's still etched in my memory. And you said one of the biggest mistakes in your life was that you all aligned with the NDA, with the BJP. Is there any possibility, were the Congress to do as badly as people predict, that post-poll you could, for one reason or the other, decide to support the BJP with Mr. Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister?
I think I have been as categorical as it is possible to be, even though some well-wishers of ours have quietly been advising us that we should keep all our options open, that we should not close the option of the NDA. The NDA as an option is closed to us. We are not. That is not an option we are going to be looking at. We are part and parcel of the UPA, and that's where we intend to stay, for good or for bad.
How has been your experience working in a coalition with the Congress? I'm told you weren't greatly in favor of coalition, but
well, obviously, I mean, both the Congress and the National Conference fought the elections to form a government of their own. We didn't fight a pre-poll alliance. This is a post-poll alliance. Both parties tried to form a government on their own. The electorate decided otherwise, and we came together. And the relationship has been by and large good. This is the longest lasting coalition government in the state. We have lasted now longer than 5 years. And there has been a good, cordial atmosphere between the two parties. Yes, from time to time there have been hiccups, but they haven't been serious enough to derail the coalition. And that's been a good thing.
You know, when Mr. Kejriwal first formed the government, you said, way to go. You appear to have been enthused. Has your enthusiasm, given the fact that he just lasted just over 2 months, has that waned?
Well, I don't think it matters whether my enthusiasm has waned or not, because I'm neither a voter in Delhi nor am I affected by what he does or doesn't do. I think some of his support did wane as a result of actions that took place.
But he's aiming for a much larger role.
He's playing on the bigger stage now. I don't know. I mean, we all underestimated his impact on the Delhi state elections. I think we're all a little reluctant to underestimate him now. Let's see what he does. I think his support will be a lot more limited than he'd like to believe, but I don't think we should run the risk of underestimating him.
You know, there is Mr. Modi is looming large, and this appears to be turning out to be some kind of a Modi versus the rest battle. At the same time, there's a vast section in this country which has a lot of apprehensions. Do you believe those apprehensions are misplaced, or do you believe that there is a basis for
I believe that the apprehensions are well founded. He is largely, I mean, we know his track record in Gujarat, since he came into the office of Chief Minister. That's there for everybody to see. How that track record in Gujarat will translate onto the national stage, how being the Chief Minister of a large single party government in Gujarat will translate into what possibly could be as head of an alliance government. I think all that remains to be seen. He's completely untested on the foreign policy front. We don't really know where he stands, other than a bit of saber rattling towards China and Pakistan that he has done from time to time. We don't know where he stands on some of these crucial issues. So yeah, there are, I mean, apprehensions are not misplaced.
Is there anything that you heard or seen which you believe would placate or allay some of the concerns that people have about him?
I don't know. My concerns will perhaps not be allayed for a long time to come, but public memory in a lot of instances is a lot shorter than that. So let's see.
The question I was asking is, do you think the leopard is changing its spots, and do you think
well, no leopard can ever change its spots. You are who you are. You can make sort of minor changes, but you can't fundamentally change your DNA. You are what you are, and the same is true for all of us.
Omar, one last question. When you went to Kashmir, you were much younger. You had a full mop of hair, a lot. You offered great amount of hope. Do you believe that in these years you've lived up to that hope?
Well, I always knew that the expectations from me were unrealistically high. I always knew that I was setting myself up to take a little bit of a beating, because there was no way I could meet the sort of expectations that were sort of being identified with me or attached to me. That having been said, I take great satisfaction from the fact that I've done the best that I possibly could have done. I couldn't have done very much better. I could have done things differently. With hindsight, obviously, you learn lessons, and there are things that I would have done differently. But I don't think I could have fundamentally done things very much better without the benefit of hindsight that I now have. I've done the best that I could do, and I still have the better part of this year, because our state elections are only in October, November. So I have the better part of this year also to deliver on some of the unfulfilled agenda.
Omar, the latest episode involving some Kashmiri students who were debarred for raising slogans in favor of Pakistan. That's what transpired. And what is it that you told your counterpart from UP?
I don't know exactly what transpired. All I know is that the university took administrative action, rightly so, because there was the fear of a communal clash. Meerut is anyway a very sensitive area. There was some amount of violence and destruction of property that also took place. But the whole thing got compounded.
Can you share the conversation you had with Atal?
Well, I'm coming to that. The whole thing got compounded because we were then told that these boys had been charged with sedition. Now, sedition is a very extreme charge to use. I mean, it's a throwback to the days of the Raj when the British ruled us. I mean, it's that old a law that is being used. And while, as I said, I didn't entirely disagree with what the university had done, and nor did these boys' parents. I certainly disagreed with the UP government's decision to file sedition charges. And I spoke to Akhilesh. He's a young man himself. And I told him that, look, while the administrative action of the university is something that one can justify, this sedition charge really needs to be looked at, because it's throwing into doubt the entire future of these boys. And instead of actually bringing them towards the mainstream, we're pushing them even further towards the margins. And he promised me, he said he'll look into this. And he said that he'll do whatever is possible not to put these children's future at risk. And I'm grateful to him, because within a few hours of my talking to him, the sedition charge was removed, and we're now trying to ensure that these boys get adequately rehabilitated.
Omar, do you find it easier to relate to the Akhilesh, get through to the Akhilesh Yadavs, the Rahul Gandhis, people of your generation, rather than getting through to people of your father's generation?
Well, I work with people who started their careers with my grandfather, not even with my father, with my grandfather. And I work just as well with them as I do with people who are from my generation. It's a different matter that I may not indulge in the sort of light-hearted banter with them, because, I mean, at the end of the day, I have to give them the respect and the regard that is due to somebody of that age. They are of my father's vintage. Therefore, I won't be backslapping with them. But I have no problem working with them, and I'd like to believe they don't have a problem working with me either.
Thank you very much for taking time out, and good luck. You have a tough task ahead of you.
Thank you.